Welcome to Kings of the North. This is what episode are we on, Josh? Is
I
this
think
like
3?
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. We're kind of right at the beginning of summer here. I don't even know if it's actually summer, but it feels like it.
I don't think we had a spring at all,
Yeah.
so...
Just kind of went from like 40 degrees to 70s for like 2 days, and then now it's in the 80s.
Yep.
So, not a whole lot going on in regards to football at the moment. We're going to talk a lot about the draft today.
Yep.
They're doing rookie mini camps right now. Is that still going on, or have they wrapped that up?
I think they're on the wrap-up for that, and
Okay.
then next weekend, OTA start for certain teams.
All right, and then once we get into training camp, we'll get a better idea of what this team's going to look like. So to begin today, the last time we did the show, we came into it. It was our pre-draft show,
Yep.
and we were looking at what teams we think at their position will draft players that could have the biggest impact for the team overall. So not necessarily like draft grading them on the front end, just based on what they did last year, who could have the biggest turnaround this year based on the draft. So I picked the Dallas Cowboys. I'll talk about that in a second. But Josh, tell us who you picked, and if you want to chat about kind of what they did.
Yeah, so in our last show, I talked about the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I thought they were in a pretty good position with the mock drafts that were coming through and who they were going to take. There was some speculation that they might drop back to get some more picks, but because of their free agency and who they added with Malik Jackson and Prince Amukamara and Tayshaun Gibson and a lot of different guys that they didn't have to. They had the guys that they need right now. So they stayed at number 5 overall, and, lucky for them, Jalen Ramsey dropped all the way to number 5. He was slated as one of the best athletic prospects in the draft, and luckily they got him. Unfortunately for him and the Jags, when he was in rookie minicamp, he partially tore his meniscus, so he was getting a second opinion last time we looked. But Jalen Ramsey is definitely a home run hitter on the defense. He's big enough to play safety and fast enough. He's got the ball skills and the footwork to play corner, and he's even got the physicality to play some outside linebackers similar to Mark Barron for the Buccaneers. I think comes in and is it the Bucs? Comes in and plays inside linebacker. Comes in and plays inside linebacker for them, and I think Jalen Ramsey could do that. So he was definitely an A overall grade for how he is going to pan out at the next level. I know he's having some issues right now with the Jags because he wants his old number. He wants, number 21 or something like that. Right now he's stuck with number 38, so he's been trying to get his number from Devon House, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. So, unfortunate for him. Guys at the next
Rookies,
level.
man.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you get picked.
Guys at the next level just want their numbers.
Unless your name's Des Bryant, you kind of do what the team tells you to do as a rookie.
That's definitely true, and the Jags don't really have any perennials where it's like, I need this number. You know, they don't have anybody like that. So, but their first-round pick, I gave an A to, and then the second-round pick, Miles Jack. So Miles Jack, outside linebacker coming out of UCLA, had some knee issues, tore up his knee the 4th game of his senior year. And they were talking about, he's one of the top 5 prospects. He's going to be drafted in the first round. He's just a freak athlete. He can play safety. He can play linebacker. He can be a rush linebacker. He can be in your nickel package, supposedly, as a corner because he can take on some of the bigger tight ends and do stuff like that. But unfortunately for him, he dropped all the way to the second round. Because the knee speculation came out right before the draft, he fell to the second round, and Jacksonville traded up to get him. They got him at like the number 36 pick, so they traded up with, I don't remember who, but they ended up getting 2 of the top 5 athletic prospects in the draft, to put on their
defense, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Jalen Ramsey is going to be playing corner. He's going to play opposite Devon House. And then Miles Jack is going to be slated he's going to be outside linebacker next to Paul Puzlesny. He's probably going to play the strong side. And then Telvin Smith, their weak side linebacker, is going to stay on his side. right away, those 2 picks, they could have had those are the only 2 picks in their whole draft, and I still would have given their draft an A because of how versatile and how athletic these guys are. Both of them now have knee injuries, and hopefully that will be, in the afterthought once the season comes and they're both healthy. But
yeah, well, that's the thing. It's just it's rare that the chips fall like that, but it was one of those situations where 2 of the better players in the draft, but also at big needs for them.
Yes.
That's rare that happens where you're basically getting great value at the pick, but also in a spot that you need.
Yep.
So, I mean, they're bolstering that defense. They will be a force to reckon with in the next 3 years, I would say.
I'd say they're pretty close to taking that division right now. Blake Bortles passed for 4,000 yards. They have Chris Ivory in free agency next to Yeldon. Plus the Allen brothers are tearing it up at wide receiver, and a healthy Julius Thomas and Mercedes Lewis are going to do some damage on offense. But they did add a couple more guys. Yannick Nakua out of Maryland, outside linebacker, pretty good pick with the 69th overall. And then Sheldon Day, a D tackle out of Notre Dame, who's 6'2", 285. He's not as much of a pocket pusher, I guess you would say, but he can hold up blocks and kind of play the run very well. He's just not that presence that's going to get to your quarterback. And then also on top of it, they needed pass rushers. And the best part about it is they didn't really go for one at all because until the 7th round with Jonathan Woodard, because they have Dante Fowler Jr. coming back, who tore his ACL in rookie minicamp last year.
Yeah,
so they have
to go with that.
a potential, another first-round pick basically from this year. So they have 3 impactful guys coming, a D-end, a linebacker, and a safety corner hybrid that is just going to be fantastic for them. So look for them to make some noise in their division and to contest with the Houston Texans for the title.
Yeah, and just from my experience, just a little input from me of knee injuries and stuff like that. I'd be more concerned about Miles Jack and his microfracture stuff. Meniscus tears, though, that's just a tear in cartilage.
Yep, they say they heal on their own pretty much.
Yeah.
You don't really need any surgery.
Yeah, I mean, if it's bad enough, you have to remove it, but if not, it will just heal on its own. The recovery time, even after surgery on something like that, I had it in high school, and this is a while ago, and this was not a professionally paid doctor. Well, yes, professionally paid doctor, but not at that level.
Oh, in the back of a van somewhere.
Yeah,
that's what we got.
Just went into some alley and, hack me up, brother.
Yep.
Go for it. But, I mean, I would expect him to be back within a few months at the most. So.
Oh, yeah. I don't expect him to miss any of the regular season or the preseason coming in because they really need to see what Ramsey and Jack can do at the next level.
Yeah, so I think they'll be fine. I think this is a pretty minor injury. So, well, I picked the Cowboys, who I picked the Cowboys because they're picking number 4, and they, were so close to being a playoff team anyways. And they just had so many injury issues. So I figured you get the number 4 pick, you get Romo healthy, you get Des Bryant healthy, and you come back and you make a run.
Yep.
And they're playing in, again, a weak NFC East division. So you make a run. That being said, I'm not going to grade it out, but I think they had a poor draft.
Yeah.
I think Jerry Jones is so obsessed with getting stars that he consistently overlooks need.
Yep.
And I'm not a person to necessarily say draft for need, but when you have so many holes on defense to fill, and you have such a good offensive line that you could basically plug in almost any running back.
Well, look at Darren McFadden last year.
Yeah, Darren McFadden, for those of you that didn't know, was actually the 4th leading rusher in the NFL last year. And actually had a better average per carry than Adrian Peterson. I just looked it up.
That offensive line does damage for those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting older at the tackle positions, but they are definitely a force, and it just goes to show you that any running back can be plugged in, and you can make some noise with them.
McFadden, who I don't even know how many games he played. He did. I doubt he made it through the entire season because I don't think he's ever made it through an entire season. But it just goes to show you, I mean, the biggest reason I think is they only had like 8 rushing touchdowns last year.
Yep.
McFadden only had 3 of them.
Joseph Randall had a handful.
Randall had 4, so they had 1 more from somebody. So obviously they're looking for more rushing. But that being said, both your defensive ends are out for 4 weeks.
Yep. Suspensions.
You have
great
holes at every other level of your defense.
Yep.
So it's just, to me, it's about making money and putting people in the seats, and it was frustrating to me to see them take a running back. He very well could be the rushing leader next year.
But it's not going to matter a whole lot
when you can't stop anyone.
Exactly. Yeah. Your pass rushers, and that's the thing. I don't know if the Cowboys were thrown off by the Chargers pick because they took Joey Bosa right ahead of them, and nobody expected the Chargers to take Joey Bosa. We thought Tunsil was going to go off the board, so it's like, oh no, that was the pick that we wanted. Who are we going to take now? And it's like, well, if we were deciding between Bosa and Elliott, well, Bosa's gone. We'll jump on Elliott. But you could have literally taken a bunch of different guys. DeForest Buckner would have been a good pick at number 4. The pass rush, the size of him by himself. Well, that's the thing.
There were multiple different pass rushers, not necessarily defensive ends. Pass rushers are defensive tackles or linebackers you could have picked there. Or you need cornerback help too.
Yep.
There's literally every level you need help.
Yes.
And so there were guys, talented guys at almost every position that could have went there. And you went with a running back that, like I said, you could plug in almost anybody in the NFL and be a top 5 running back in regards to at least yards.
Yep, but it's definitely Jerry Jones' run team. Jason Garrett doesn't have much say, I guess, when the owner's like, I want this guy. Mm-hmm. This is who we're going to take, or, I'm going to take your job.
So, yeah, the next pick, not much better. Jalen Smith would have probably been a top 10 pick.
They were saying he would have been the number 1 overall linebacker, so it's like, with 2 quarterbacks going, you can't really draft a linebacker ahead of him, but number 3 to the Chargers would have been a good pick if he was healthy.
He would have easily been a top 10, probably even top 5 pick. That being said, they obviously have faith that he's going to come back. He will not play a snap this year.
No.
That's guaranteed. He will not play a snap this year.
Yeah, there's speculation that's like, I'll play this year. But it's like, if you rush it too fast and you get injured again, you miss a whole nother off season. You're just so far behind.
Yeah, I don't see it. And from more that I've heard from people is there's a very good chance he never plays football again. So I'm not. It's not. I don't think it's 50-50, but I would put it at like a 30% chance that he never plays football again.
Which is unfortunate for him because he was a talented linebacker, and hopefully he can play again. But they could have also got him in the 5th round because he was just too far down.
We don't know when he would have gone, but a lot of people did project him into the 5th round and different things like that. So yeah.
It was kind of, it was just a rough draft for the Cowboys. They didn't do so hot. First 2 rounds, I like their overall athleticism of the first 2 picks if they can produce. It just wasn't the needs that they absolutely had to have for their defense. Yeah,
and they proved that in the next several rounds. The 5 of their next 6 picks were all on defense.
Yep.
They went, let me see here, Malik Collins, defensive tackle, which... Again, in
a 3-4 defense, it's like he's not going to be, unless he's that one technique and he's a monster, which I don't think he is. He's going to get double teamed. He's going to get moved off the line, and it's going to be bad.
Well,
for them.
Again, it's just like their next pick was defensive end, but it's like in the 3rd round, I would have went defensive end there.
Right.
So it's just a little confusing to me. Obviously, I'm not paid to do this, but Jerry Jones basically runs that, and I think. Yeah, I don't think he's got the team's best interest in mind in regards to winning.
No, and I think he is so in love with Tony Romo, they're just trying to prop him up as long as possible with Ezekiel Elliott and Des Bryant, and it's like Jason Witten's, 35, 36 years old. He's on his way down. But it's like, here, we're going to give Tony Romo everything he needs to score touchdowns and hopefully keep him upright, so he doesn't get hurt. But, I don't know if they're planning for him to get hurt again. And so it's like when Dak Prescott comes in or Clemens or whoever, it's like, oh, you can check down to Ezekiel Elliott most of the time and you'll still get yards out of him.
So, yeah, that was their next pick, Dak Prescott out of Mississippi State. I don't know much about him. They wanted the kid that went to Denver. I'm pretty sure. What's his name? That Denver drafted at quarterback.
Paxton Lynch.
I'm pretty sure I think there was a big debate about them going to get Paxton Lynch.
There's a lot of people that wanted to take him, but he wasn't ranked in the first round. I was just surprised more people didn't reach for him just because of the quarterback needs that some teams have.
Yeah. After that, they went cornerback, safety, and we don't need to discuss that much further.
A lot of the guys probably won't make the team. So, and that's one thing a lot of people who either listen to the show or watch football don't really understand is when you hit the 5th, 6th, 7th round draft picks, a lot of those guys won't make the team just because it's like, hey, I have a handful of veterans on my team in a lot of different positions. Then when you draft the 5th, 6th, 7th, you're hoping for that diamond in the rough. But a lot of times those guys will be reduced down to like the practice squad.
Squad, or at most they're probably going to be just on special teams.
Special teams is pretty much what they're aiming for at this point. Yeah. So it's unfortunate for a lot of guys who are like, I'm going to be an NFL star, but at the same time, you'll be, just helping all the other guys in the first and second round.
And that's been the nice thing about actually the Vikings recently is we've turned multiple picks, even late round picks, into contributing guys frequently, which
Welcome
has been
to Mike
awesome.
Zimmer.
Yeah. So I mean that is a mixture. Yes, that's definitely Zimmer, but Spielman had a big,
Spielman's done a great job. Let's move into that a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit of Vikings draft. So, first round, number 23 overall. There was some speculation about who we were going to pick, which wide receiver. Well, that went away once Cleveland took Corey Coleman and
Houston took Keller. And then
Fuller. Will Fuller.
Keller.
Yeah, all right. And then who else went?
And then Washington took Doxson.
Josh Doxson.
In front of us.
Yep. So it's like, hey, everybody saw, Laquan Treadwell falling to us, supposedly the best wide receiver in the draft. Athletic-wise, he just ran a slow 40. But there was a lot of guys in NFL history who were great. They ran slow 40s. I'm talking Jerry Rice didn't run a super fast 40. Chris Carter didn't. Terrell Davis, running back, Denver, didn't run a super fast 40, but it's like guys have game speed, Well,
and guys that know how to run routes. I mean, all these guys were prolific route runners, and I think that's becoming lost in today's NFL. I feel like everybody's more about speed and less about the quality of actual play.
Yep.
And we've seen that play out multiple different times with multiple different receivers where they will literally leave you in the dust.
Yep.
But they can't catch worth anything, and if there's safety help or something like that, or they can't break coverage, they're basically useless.
Yep.
So,
and then we're adding another guy for Teddy Bridgewater to be able to, to be able to catch the ball. I mean, it's basically what it boils down to. I can throw up a red zone pass, and Laquan Treadwell is going to come down with it most of the time. He's a jumper, 50-50 pass catch kind of guy. He's going to come down with it.
That's definitely, I think, what we're looking for. He's got a big wingspan, and he's got good range.
Yep.
And that's the thing. With some of the guys that went earlier, some of them just lightning quick. Coleman had issues with his hands, though.
He still does.
And that was one thing I looked at, and I was like, we can't be having guys with issues with their hands.
And he's the same size as Stephon Diggs, so it's like he's not going to be a number one wide receiver for us when we already have a guy his size. We need some height.
Yeah, we need a guy that can go to the corner of the end zone and go up and get the ball. Rudolph can do that as well, but we need somebody else, essentially.
We need somebody a little quicker. That's what the wide receiver's for.
Yeah. Before we brought him in, we had smaller, quicker wide receivers. That's kind of what we had going for us, and that's probably not the best fit for Teddy. And a lot of guys said even though he was the last out of the 4 that were going to go in the first round, a lot of people were saying it's still the best pick for the Vikings. So I was really happy with him. I picked him there. You were unsure about that, but
No.
It sounds like you're a little more confident with it now.
I like it just because of the way the whole kind of first round played out, and it's just we needed offensive help, and I didn't know who it was going to come from. If we were going to get a free agent, trades or whatever. Laquan, I'm still up in the air, kind of how he's going to play, but it sounds like he's doing pretty well at rookie minicamp. Mm-hmm. But the guy who and do you have anything else, about
Well,
Laquan?
I was going to say I was actually really torn watching it because of how Miles Jack fell. Because I did say if Miles Jack falls to 23, we will pick him. That didn't end up happening, but I still think I wouldn't have been upset with that. I would have been a little torn because, I did think
Laquan
we needed more help at wide receiver, but it wouldn't have surprised me just because the chemistry him, Barr, and Kendricks would have had at the linebacker position together.
Right, and we've talked about, the defense going to nickel package more in the NFL, which is 2 linebackers and 5 corners or defensive backs. And I think that plays into Zimmer's thought because you go into the second round and we pick somebody, we're like, oh, we're going to move up, we'll take Miles Jack. And what we did was we took a corner. And it's like we have a heavy corner team. It's like between Xavier Rhodes and Trey Waynes, our first-round pick last year, and Terrence Newman and Captain Munnerlyn and whoever else, that we have on that team. What it boils down to is like, hey, Mackenzie Alexander was a great prospect out of Clemson, I believe it was, and he shut guys down. Yeah, he didn't have an interception in his whole NFL or in his whole college career, but in his last 2 seasons, I think it was like 16 or 20 games or something like that, he didn't let a touchdown in either. Yeah. He is one of the shutdown corners. He just doesn't always pick it off, which, hey, if you can't catch the ball, defense is the best place for you.
And he's gonna be the nickel. Most likely. He doesn't have the size that Zimmer likes for an outside the numbers cornerback.
At only 5'10", yeah.
Yeah, yes. But he is shut down. He will shut down the middle of the field. And what we're looking at here is Captain Munnerlyn is in a contract year this year.
Yep.
With this pickup, I don't see how we re-sign him. He would have to play ungodly well for us to re-sign him, and even then, I still don't think we do it unless Alexander is a huge bust in their eyes.
Right, and I don't know if Captain Munnerlyn, does have the slot position right now. Trey Waynes is slated to be the number 2 behind Xavier Rhodes at number 1 at these corner positions, and that's probably what we're going to start the season as. As it works, if Trey Waynes does not pan out, then Alexander moves out to the number 2 spot because Zimmer has said he's not too short to play, and he has the physicality that we like and the ball skills to play the position. 5'10", we don't have to play against Calvin Johnson anymore. We're going to have some problems against Kevin White and Alshon Jeffrey on the Bears, but the Lions aren't going to give us any trouble. No. And then the Packers' biggest guy, Jordy Nelson, is going to go against Xavier Rhodes most of the time. So he shouldn't have any issues being 5'10" in our division.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I don't think he'll have too many problems. His footwork is phenomenal from what I hear, and just his awareness on the field is great. So, yeah, and that's the thing. That's another thing. Zimmer does not care in the least about the interceptions. Nope. Zimmer is much more fundamental of – Zimmer's the kind of guy, if you go for an interception and you miss it and you give up a touchdown, you're dead to him, essentially. So I think it's much more important to him to be shut down in that fashion, and I'm happy about that pick. I was kind of surprised. Not disappointed in the pick, just because I think we got great value there.
He was slated. He was one of the guys that were like, he could go in the first round. Is he a late first rounder? Is he an early second rounder? I think we got a really good value for him too, and he's going to fit in well to our defense. He's also, and like Zach, you were saying, Mike Zimmer likes the fact that he does not chase interceptions. That's one thing. Alexander was never out of position in college because he never went for the interception. He stayed on his guy. When the ball is in the air, you get a lot of corners looking for the ball to try to pick it off and lose sight of their guy, and the wide receiver ends up coming down with it. Where Alexander will stick to his guy the whole time and not look for that ball to try to get the interception. He does not want his guy to catch it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's just a lost art, actually, of like, I'm going to win this battle.
Yep.
Whereas I think some cornerbacks thinking taking it to the house or getting an interception is winning the war. But no, it's just battle by battle basis. I'm going to beat you.
Yep.
And you are not going to do what your job is to do.
If you have only one catch for 8 or 9 yards the whole game, or 2 catches for under 20 yards, that's a shutdown corner right there. Yeah. No touchdowns on you in 20 games in college. I'll take that in the pros. Even if it translates to like 4 or 5 touchdowns in 16 games, I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about Terrence Newman now? Do you think is he still the starter? Or I think he's even on the bubble for making the team.
I think he's 38 years old. We have him for 1 more year. I think if he doesn't transition to like a more safety role, because I don't know how much he can handle playing the corner spot anymore. He did really well last year for 37 years old. Mm-hmm. It really depends how Waynes and Alexander work out. And if they aren't up to speed, Zimmer's defense is very predicated on corners and safeties sitting for a whole year before they get a chance. And like Trey Waynes, Newman played well. He played like 700 snaps last year, and that is a lot. But that just goes to show you that he wants rookies to learn his defense before throwing him in there.
Yeah.
So, and I think Newman will play a little bit, but I don't think he'll be anywhere close to 700 snaps like he was last year.
So we traded our 3rd pick to move up in the 2nd? Or did we just... I'm not sure. We either traded it to move up and get Alexander, or we dropped back. I think that's what we did, is we just traded it. We got a few picks for next year.
Yep. We got some next year's picks.
And Rick Spielman likes to have lots of picks. I think he wants to go into a draft having 10 picks because he likes to move. So
yes.
So that's going to help us out next year. So interested in seeing. I love the draft. I love the anticipation.
Me
for
too.
It. So after the fact, and then you just kind of wait for like 3 months before you actually get to see how these guys pan out. And it could be 2 to 3 years before you actually see whether or not if it was actually a good value pick or not. So it all plays out. We're seeing that with like Harrison Smith and Khalil.
Well, and Everson Griffin, our now star DN, started as a special teamer. He was still a DN, but he was a bullet on punt team, which
ridiculous.
Was amazing to see a DN running down the field with these little corners and tackling the punt returner. It was great.
So yeah, I've been really happy thus far. I want to get a little bit into some O-line talk a little later, but we're going to go a little through some more of these picks. So our 4th rounder, Willie Beavers, offensive line. So I think he did play tackle in college, but I think they're probably looking at him more as a guard prospect.
Yeah, he's only 6'4". He doesn't have the height to play D-end, left tackle or right tackle. Mm-hmm. The problem is it's like Phil Lodeholt, Andre Smith, and Matt Khalil are all in contract years this year, and say we lose all 3 of them, you're looking at Beavers to slide in to play left or right tackle, and then TJ Clemmings to play your other side.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Khalil. I'm most intrigued by. Smith is a little older, definitely.
He's on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, just on a single-year deal. Khalil, yeah, it does intrigue me. I think him not having to worry about a guy next to him is going to help him immensely. I think
Boone is going to help him a lot.
I think Boone is Pro Bowl caliber type of a player, and I think that's going to help Khalil really be able to focus on his needs and focus on just the one-on-one with his guys. So I think that'll help him a lot. I really hope it does. I would like to see him really shine again back to like his rookie season, and then get him.
When he had Steve Hutchinson as his left guard, who kind of showed him what to do and how to handle the position.
Yeah. So I'd like to see him. I'd like to get, as long as he plays well, I'd like to get him re-signed and one less spot to worry about going into next year.
Yep.
what I've heard about Beavers is he's got good footwork. He doesn't necessarily have the size, or I don't know. Let me see here.
Well, he ran a 5.28 40, and so he's pretty quick for an offensive lineman at that size.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had a 4.75 short shuttle. So he's got good footwork, and he could slide in at guard, but with the logjam that we have at guard right now, he'd be better off suited backing up one of our tackle positions. If he backs up right tackle, behind Phil Lodeholt and Andre Smith, and then TJ Clemmings is that left tackle behind Matt Khalil. He's probably going to be one of the swing guys that plays a couple positions.
I think it's heavily based on position flexibility. I don't know what Zimmer's take is on that. That just seems like what they're doing a lot for the offensive line is position flexibility.
Yep.
So I'm comfortable with the offensive line situation at this point in time, and I'm comfortable even if we have a player go down. I'm going to be still fairly comfortable.
We have, 4 or 5 guys now with starting experience.
Starting acumen.
Yep.
So let me see here. Number 5.
5th round.
Kentrell Brothers.
I love him. I think he is at 6 foot. He reminds me similar to Ray Lewis coming out of Miami, just because everybody's like, "Oh, Ray Lewis, you're too small to play middle linebacker. You don't have what it takes to take on offensive linemen and stuff like that." Kentrell Brothers being only 6 foot, he has the same stuff counting against him, but he also only led the NCAA in tackles 2 straight years. Being a middle linebacker at 6 foot. So it's like, 130-something tackles last year, 158 tackles in 2015. He dominated running backs. Is basically all he did, because he's fast. Yeah. And at some point, he's going to move into that starting lineup, and Kendricks will probably move to weak side linebacker.
Yeah, I like this pick a lot as well, because we don't need a coverage or even pass rushing linebacker.
Right.
We have that in Kendricks and Barr. And like you were saying earlier, the NFL in general is moving more to a nickel defense. And with the pickup of Alexander, I think you can project us moving into more of a nickel defense as well.
Yep.
So once he gets into a starting role, which I think he will, if that may not be this year, I think he'll see a decent amount of playing time this year, depending on how Greenway feels and everything like that. But,
it'll be package specific. He'll go in at middle linebacker a couple times, just like we did with Gerald Hodges in the past. Mm-hmm. Adi Cole. We want to see what he's going to look like, and I don't think that Kendricks and Barr play a lot in the preseason because we already know what we got with him.
It's locked down, so we'll see a lot of him in the preseason. And I think it's an interesting pickup. When he's playing, he's probably only going to play 1 to 2 downs a series because depending on what happens on first down, they might throw in a nickel on second down.
Yep.
So and they probably will definitely on third down for the most part. So we'll see what happens. I think we agree on that. We don't need any type of pass rusher or coverage so much there.
No.
And just somebody to clog up the middle and be good at stopping the run.
And if you're worried a little, it's he's only 6 foot, he only weighs 240 pounds, something like that. Yeah, his college experience might not translate into the pros, but being so small, he can really get underneath offensive linemen who are coming at him and play the leverage game. Mm-hmm. He played it really well in college, and I think he can get off blocks very well. And he tackles low. He doesn't tackle high. He doesn't have the size to. So he is a sure tackler because he wraps up legs like he's supposed to.
Yeah. And let's remember, if that's a 5th round pick, if he becomes a starter, that's great value.
Oh, it'd be great.
So yeah. Moving on to probably the most interesting pick, not only for the Vikings, maybe for the NFL.
Yep, most talked about so far.
Is Moritz Boehringer?
Boehringer, yeah.
I think it's Boehringer. It's German. So first non what
was it? The first German-born wide receiver who's never played a college football
never played in American college football. First ever draftee that wasn't out of American college football.
Last year he played 1 year of football, and that was it. He runs a 4.38, very fast, very big. He's like, 6'4", something like that. Very large wide receiver. The biggest thing, he's very, very raw, and you have to do a lot of work with him. And I think it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
Because of his size, because of his quickness, he's going to be the guy who's going to catch those across the middle. He'll play in 4 wide receiver sets, I think, just to kind of get the feel for it, and he'll jump in for a Kyle Rudolph, so Rudolph doesn't have to be split all the time. We're going to see some good stuff out of him.
No, he is a freak of nature in regards to physical stats. For his height and weight, his 40 time is ridiculous. And his
should
ability,
really be playing DN.
Yeah, his ability to jump as well is just ridiculous. Like I said, he played amateur football in Germany, and what a lot of scouts were equating it to is like D3
Division
football. So obviously his competition was not very good, but you would expect an elite college player at Division I if they went down to Division III just to dominate.
Yep.
And essentially that's what he was doing with very little experience. If he's a man without fear and is able to go over the middle, he's going to do some good things. And actually make those tough over the middle catches in traffic when people are about to, put down the wood, essentially. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm high aspirations, low expectations on him.
That's similar to my thought process, just because he's big, and I don't know how physical he's going to be, but with the size and weight that he is, being a blocking wide receiver might go well for us. Yeah,
and that's another thing. Did we mention that about Treadwell? Treadwell's one of the best blocking wide receivers in the draft, which works very well with what we do here in Minnesota. So,
well, yeah, they're going to be great blockers for AP. When you got guys that size, and you can go 3-4 wide receivers and have Laquan Treadwell and Boringer and Kyle Rudolph, and then like Stephon Diggs or Jarius Wright or somebody, we can take on some guys, linebackers with our wide receivers.
Our essentially goal line set is going to be ridiculously large. Like the guys that we put in there with this new tight end, with we re-signed why can't I remember Rhett? We re-signed
Rhett Ellison.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because I think we could go, even if we throw a couple wide receivers out there. If we're going to run, we're going to go big. And we're just going to push everybody.
Everything in the red zone. You're looking at Laquan on one side, Moritz on the other side, Rudolph, Rhett Ellison, maybe even Michael Pruitt, one of our picks from last year, super athletic tight end, and then AP. So it's like, hey, you have these monster-sized guys out on the field that all are leapers, and then you have AP. So it's like, do you stack the box? Do you play the wide receivers? How do you kind of handle that situation from us?
Yeah. So just to wrap up with the last 2 picks, not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, is our 7th-round pick was Stephen Weatherly. He's an outside linebacker at Vanderbilt. They're projecting to move him to defensive end to be a very high-level athlete defensive end, similar to Everson.
He's that pass rusher type. He's not going to be the run stuffer to get inside, but he will get around the edge.
Yeah, quick, agile, athletic pass rushers. That's what Zimmer's looking for, and that's what they're going to convert him into. So we'll see what happens with that. And then finally, another Clemson guy we wrapped up with
Javon Curse, right?
J-Ron
Curse.
So yeah, another Clemson guy.
If he can play, if he can have speed, he has a potential to get in the mix with Michael Griffin and Andrew Sendejo.
He's very big. He's 6'4", 34-inch arms, very large safety. The biggest problem with him, he's obviously at that size. He's fairly physical. Yep. His awareness, his on-field awareness is not very good. That's the biggest diss on him. And honestly, that's probably the biggest diss you can have as a corner or safety. you need to be aware on the field at all times.
Yep.
The linemen, specifically defensive linemen, that's not going to be as big of an issue. But yeah, at the defensive backs position, you definitely need to have game awareness.
Yep.
So if that's something that we can build up, he could potentially be starter or rotational guy, but that's yet to be seen. So that's kind of
overall. I think we had a pretty good draft, just because even our first 2 rounds were need based. I think we got a good corner. Newman's getting older. Captain Munnerlyn's in a contract year. We got the good corner. I thought we were going to draft a safety, somebody like Carl Joseph, who the Raiders took in their first round. We ended up not taking one till the 7th round. That shows you the confidence that we have in Michael Griffin and Andrew Sendejo to let Harrison Smith kind of expand his abilities.
Well, Zimmer did say he was looking at J-Ron since the 5th round, and Spielman convinced him to just let it play out and see what happens. So I think Zimmer was clenching his teeth a little bit towards the end there, because apparently he really wanted him, and he ended up getting him. So it gives me confidence to know that, I'm very, very confident for the first time in probably my lifetime in our coach.
Yep.
So
when we got him, I was just super excited because he's been in the league like 20 years, and he's been approached to be head coach before for different teams, and he didn't like the teams. Well, so he was just like, no.
He didn't like the teams, or a lot of times he was turned down because there's no BS with him.
Nope.
And a lot of owners and general managers don't like that. There's a lot of coaches. There's 2 types of coaches. There's the coaches that will coddle their players, and literally the players run the show, basically.
Yep.
And then there's coaches that, nope, this is completely mine. You either line up with what we're doing or you can get out.
Yep.
And I really like that that's kind of the style he is, and he demands respect. And unlike coaches we've had in the past that have been similar, they just didn't demand the respect that he does. And I really, really look forward to what he has, because I think he will bring us to the Super Bowl eventually.
Yeah, and I think we have a great number of coaches right now. You look at Mike Zimmer.
Well, we have 4 former head coaches on the team right now.
Mike Zimmer being a former defensive guru, for the Bengals and whoever else and Dallas. And then you have Norv Turner, who's this awesome quarterbacks coach / offensive coordinator,
offensive mind, yeah.
who did a number with Phillip Rivers when he was over with the Chargers. And then you have a whole bunch of other guys. And then Spielman, who's done a great job for us drafting over the last couple of years. So it's like we've built a pretty good powerhouse. The only thing I'm more concerned about is that we're going to lose Norv Turner to head coaching job, and a couple other the guys that we have who are coaching different positions for us.
I'm not super concerned about Norv, because I think he's looking at retirement. I think he'll see what happens. That's always the question, though. If you get offered a head coaching position, that might end that thinking of retirement fairly quickly. But I actually like his son a lot, and I wonder if he moves, if his son moves. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. Scott's been a pretty solid quarterbacks coach, and we'll see what he has in the future, I guess, because he was supposed to be kind of the thing. If Norv retires, Scott's going to kind of be the guy. But
yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see,
if Zimmer's okay with that happening.
Yeah, exactly. That is said a lot, and then once it happens, they're like, nope, moving on.
Yep.
So we're going to touch a little bit on offensive line, but we pretty much went over that. Basically, we're thinking Beavers will back up. Could be back up to guard or tackle.
Right.
I'm thinking basically what I was trying to figure out today of who our actual starters are going to be, but I think the left side's pretty clear. It's Khalil and Boone.
Yep.
I think Sullivan does take the starting center spot again.
Easily.
And then I think the right side's a little up in the air, but I think Fusco and then Smith is the tackle with Lode Holt backing up him. And I don't know. I think TJ Clemmings could very well be the backup to Fusco, if not challenge him for a starting position. I'm not sure what they're thinking.
I think they'll rather go with Berger to back him up just because Berger's very good and he played very well last year at center. I think Clemmings will probably back up Khalil pretty well, and Boone. Clemmings is definitely a guy, once he gets the overall scheme down, he can back up a lot of positions. But yeah, I definitely agree that Smith will win the starting job.
Yeah,
and Lodeholt will back him up after his injury.
Mike Harris, didn't we?
Mike Harris, we still have Mike Harris too.
Okay. So he's probably a guy that's probably looking to be on the bubble.
Yeah. Mike Harris, if Fusco's your starter, then you got Mike Harris backing him up. You got Berger backing up Sullivan. You got TJ Clemmings backing up, we'll say, Alex Boone. Then we got Willie Beavers backing up Matt Khalil. And then you have Phil Lodeholt backing up Andre Smith. Yeah. So we have 10 offensive linemen, which is a lot of offensive linemen to carry in 1 year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. A few of those guys are going to be gone. I think there's no really way of getting around that. We don't know how Lodeholt's recovered from his injury last year.
Yep.
So if he's not progressing the way that we'd like to see, he may be on the out. But that being said, like I said, if we have two injuries is going to hurt no matter what kind of players you have. But I think I would be, if any of those guys went down, I think Boone would be the biggest, actually, one to hurt if he went down. But the rest of them, I would be, obviously not my favorite thing because they obviously won the position over the second person, but it wouldn't scare me.
No, not so much like if Sullivan went down with another injury. Berger played really well last year for us. Yeah. We did have problems at left guard, and I think that affects our left tackle too. So you're right. I think Boone is the biggest scare if he goes down because then it'll affect Khalil.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's probably going to do it. Anything else for today?
We touched on a lot of stuff. It basically comes down to our defenses put in place. I think we have a Super Bowl caliber defense, and we added that missing piece in our wide receiver. Yeah. We have the tight ends, we have the offensive line, now we have the wide receivers. We have AP, who led the league in rushing last year, and he could do it again this year.
Definitely could.
Comes down to Teddy Bridgewater.
With the updated and better offensive line now, Mike Zimmer sent out that text to Teddy and Adrian after we signed Boone that, no more excuses, and I think that's even more true how we sit now with Treadwell and, basically shoring up that defense as well. There's a specifically for Teddy, there's not really any more excuses now. If he can't put together a statistically more significant season, I'm not sure what the future looks like for him, but I think they might start looking other places. I think
with Teddy?
Yeah,
no.
I think he's got to put together a statistically.
I think
I'm not
can
saying
still
significantly better, but he's got a show on tape. That
we went 11-5 last year, okay, and we beat the Packers at their home.
Yeah.
Granted, they were missing a lot of pieces, but what you're telling me is, a third-year quarterback they're going to move on from, who is statistically under 20-yard throws, was the best in the league.
All I'm saying is you can win with defense, and you can definitely win with defense, but
if the Ravens won the 2000 with Trent Dilfer as the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm just saying, though, it helps a lot more when you have the offensive firepower to go with it.
Yep.
So if he's bottom 5 in the NFL again in regards to passing, I say
yards.
They start to look. Not saying they'll necessarily draft another person, but they start to look.
They might draft a younger guy, just in the third or fourth round, just to see kind of what we get.
Push him a little bit.
Yeah, there was talk about us re-signing Christian Ponder to be his veteran backup. I really hope that doesn't happen. I hate Christian Ponder. Yeah. I think he was a total bust coming out of Florida State. Knew it, even though the only reason we drafted him was because he was getting his master's at the time, and they wanted a smart quarterback. But anyway, that's for another time. I think that we're going to have a legitimate shot to go deep into the playoffs this year.
Yeah. And that being said, what I said about Teddy, I think going indoors, we're going to be indoors, obviously every home game and then a few different road games. And his stats indoors were quite a bit better.
Yep.
Like 20% better on the yards column or something like that. So
everybody's going to do a little better.
And then hopefully Blair can do better indoors.
Not getting into that.
No.
Oh, gosh.
We didn't get a new punter, but hopefully he can do better indoors as well.
It's going to be like the 98 championship game where Gary Anderson missed that field goal.
Ugh.
Oh,
This was worse.
yes, it was.
That hurt more. Anyways, we're gonna wrap up.
Yep.
This is Zach,
Josh.
and this is Yeah. I almost said the wrong thing for my other podcast. Anyways, this is Kings of the North. We talk about football here, and you guys have a great day.